Welcome to the Mulesoft demo. This is Charishma. I have a total 5 years experience. I have been delivering training as freelancer on Mule from 3 years. Coming to our training program, it takes 30 working hours to complete this course. 30 working hours, and I will be using this drawing board to explain the topics. Apart from the exception handling, I will not use for any PPTs to explain the topics. I will be explaining by drawing the pictures. If you have a glance in the, from the past classes, how I explain by taking a use case is a ESB. So I'll explain the topics by drawing the pictures. What is a USB? What is a web service? And what is a loosely coupled? What is logically coupled? How can we get the SOAP over JMS? Everything. Whatever the topic, I'll be explaining by drawing the pictures. And coming to the documents which I am going to share with you. To give you hands-on experience, I am going to share the documents. So the zip files which I have here, 2 zip files I am going to share with you. And under the software, if I unzip them under the software folder, I have a couple of softwares here which we are going to use in our training program. And this Mule 4 documents. One folder is workspace and one is lab documents. Under the workspace, I follow the start and solution approach. So once we are done in the session, you need to follow the lab. You need to practice the lab by seeing the documents, by watching the documents. In the documents, I have described well with step by step process. By seeing this lab documents, you can practice the lab. So this will give you the hands-on experience. Whose huge practice labs I have given here. Now coming to a topic, our course is 80% practical and 20% theoretical. 20% theoretical. First 2 sessions will be theoretical, next remaining everything will be practical. So I'll be taking a use case and I'll explain the use case. After that you understand what is a mule as a developer and what is your role. So I'll give you a platform. End of the course, I'll give you a platform that when you are going to deploy or import any application, you are in a position of reading the original document of Mulesoft. So I'll give that platform for you guys. Now coming to this Mulesoft and Mule. What is this Mulesoft and what is the Mule? Mulesoft is a company which is acquired by the Salesforce in the year 2018. The Mule is an integration tool. It's a runtime engine. And here we are going to learn Mule 4.4, the latest version of the Mule. And this is the major version and this is the minor version. And if you are learning Mule for the first time, you can directly learn the Mule 4 directly. Means you can directly learn Mule 4. And you no need to learn Mule 3. Mule 3 is not required. And once you are done with this course, you will be in a position to clear the Mulesoft Certified Developer certification. You will be in a position to clear this certification. So after all, whenever you are going to create this application, Mule application, you need some platform, right? You require some platform to create the Mule application. For that, you use AnyPoint Studio. AnyPoint Studio we use to create the Mule application. And in Mule, we are going to design the APIs, right? In APIs, we are going to design the REST API. In that, AnyPoint platform is a very plays major role here. So AnyPoint platform plays major role. So we will discuss about the architecture of the AnyPoint platform. Architecture of AnyPoint platform. So whenever any IT program, for any IT program, software development life cycle is we follow, right? So what is the software development life cycle? Is the gathering the requirements, next design, we design the API, simulate, development, testing, deployment, secure. Secure. We apply security policies at the end. Let's assume we have the requirement in text format. So you want to design the API. How you design the API? Let's assume once you gather the requirements, you need to design the API. You need to design the API, that is REST API. So you want to design the API, REST API by using the RAML, RESTful API modeling language. And where you design the API? In Design Center. In Design Center, you design the API by using the RAML. So once the design is done, you need to simulate. So while design, you simulate. When you design this API, you want to get feedback from the client. If you send this RAML file, this client will not get understand. He cannot understand the RAML file. How can I make him understand and get feedback from what I am designing is correct? If I give dummy data to API, which I created, then I deploy this application and client will give request to the application and get some output, right? So in simulation, you need to give the sample data. In simulation, you give the sample data. So once you give the sample data to the API, you need to deploy this, right? Even though it is dummy data, dummy API with the sample data, so you need to deploy. Without deploying, you cannot send the request. So client is sending the request. Who will receive it if it is not deployed? So we need to enable the mocking URL. Mocking URL. Mocking URL is linked with mocking servers, which is provided by the Mulesoft. So if you enable this mocking URL with mocking servers while designing the API and initialize this sample data, then if you share this URL with the client, since it is running in the mocking servers, client will send the request and you get the response, right? So once I deploy it on the mocking servers, then how this API is shared to the client? I deploy this application on this mocking server, but how this API is shared to the client? So you need to publish this API onto a exchange, but here you need to publish this to the exchange. API to exchange. Here in the exchange, the REST API what we designed, we shared. But in the exchange, only the people within the organization, the particular organization can only see this API. So you need to share to, from the exchange, you need to share to API portal for public. To see all public, we need to share to the public portal. So client is not one of the member in the organization, so he is the public. So we need to share the API to the public portal, that we call is the API portal. So we share this API to the public portal, sorry, REST API. Now the client is given this URL, mocking URL as given. So since it is enabled with sample data on mocking URL, he send the request, he gets some sample response. Once he receive response, he checks format, everything is correct, sign off is done. Now you need to write the logic. So once design the API, you need to write the logic. Implementation you need to write. You need to write the mule logic in mule flows. So there is a one application that is an IDE, that is an IDE, integration development environment, that is Anypoint Studio. Anypoint Studio. In Anypoint Studio, In any point studio for your API, what you created, you can design the flows. For in your REST API, you have 100 Metron resources, assume. For each and every Metron resource, one of the flow get generated. So we call these as steps, placeholders flows. So we can import the API from the design center to the any point studio. Not only from design center, you can import from the exchange, or you can import from the exchange, or if you have that YAML file in your local system, you can import to the any point studio. So automatic flows are get generated in the any point studio. For each and every method and resources, automatic flows are get generated. So we call them as a placeholders flows, the basic flows. So if you want to add any flows, we can add. So development is done here. So what and all is done? Design, simulate, development is done. Now testing. So Mulesoft is provided a framework that is a M unit. So M unit, which is embedded framework of any point studio, which is embedded framework of any point studio. Whatever the logic you created can test with the strategies by using the M unit. Deploy the application in the Mule runtime 4.4. So any point studio is 7.1.4 is the latest. So any point studio 7 is only compatible with the Mule 4. So deploy the application in Mule runtime. So we deploy the application here in the Mule runtime. Now anyone can send the request and get the response. So I can send the request, you can send the request, anyone can send the request. So is it secure? So to validate the incoming request, we need to secure. So where we need to apply the security? In API manager, we apply the security policies. So in API manager level, at API manager level, we apply securing policies. API manager by giving the original Mule application URL to the API manager and ask him to create one proxy. What this will API manager will do, by taking the original URL of the Mule runtime, he will create one proxy. So proxy can be downloaded and deployed on the API gateway. API gateway. Now proxy URL is given to the client. So this proxy URL is linked with the original Mule original Mule application, Mule API URL. So this proxy URL is given to the client. Once the client send the request, this proxy will check whether the incoming request is valid or not. If it is valid, then it is invokes the original Mule API, then it gives the response. So this is how we apply the security at the API manager level. So API manager plays very important role. All these are part of one account is called any point platform account. All these are part of any point platform. Along with this, Mulesoft has one platform, that is iPaaS, Integration Platform as Service. iPaaS is created on top of IaaS. So infrastructure as service to created integration platform as service called Cloud Hub. So this is all about the architecture of the any point platform.